In today's video, we're diving into the most brutal shark attacks, from a kayak fisherman's fatal encounter with a great white to a heroic nurse's final moments in Florida. But first, we begin off Australia's coast, where a father's attempt to retrieve a fallen oar turned into a nightmare. It was December 19, 1959, in the early morning hours along the coast of Wynnum, a quiet suburb on the shores of Moreton Bay near Brisbane, Australia. The sun had barely begun its ascent over the Coral Sea, casting a golden glow across the choppy waters. Moreton Bay, where freshwater rivers meet the ocean, created a unique ecosystem teeming with marine life. The bay's murky waters, stirred by overnight winds, reduced visibility to mere feet below the surface. This mixing of fresh and salt water made it an ideal habitat for one of the ocean's most dangerous predators, the bull shark, a species known for its aggressive nature and ability to thrive in both environments. Stanley Mullins, a 29-year-old local fisherman, had risen before dawn that morning with a specific purpose. A father of 5 young children, Stanley worked tirelessly to provide for his large family. With Christmas only days away, he needed extra money to buy presents for his children. He had convinced his closest friend, Raphael Bishop, a 31-year-old dock worker, to join him for an early morning crabbing expedition. The two men had been friends since childhood, sharing countless fishing trips over the years. Raphael was more cautious by nature, but he trusted Stanley's experience on the water. They launched their small wooden dinghy from the beach at 5:30 in the morning, paddling through the breaking waves into increasingly rough seas. The water was warm for early summer, conditions known to increase bull shark activity. The choppy surface and poor visibility created dangerous circumstances, but Stanley was determined. They needed a good catch to make the trip worthwhile. After paddling for an extended time, the two friends reached a spot several hundred yards from shore in the deeper bay waters, far from immediate help. They began lowering baited crab pots into the murky water around 6:15. The fresh bait sent scent trails drifting through the current, and the vibrations from their boat created disturbances that traveled far through the water column. Unknown to the two men, these signals were being detected by predators lurking below. Bull sharks are considered one of the most dangerous shark species due to their frequent overlap with human activity. Unlike most sharks that require salt water to survive, bull sharks possess a unique ability to regulate salt in their bodies, allowing them to travel freely between ocean and river systems. They are stocky, powerful animals, typically reaching lengths of 7 to 11 feet, with females growing larger than males. Their blunt snouts house powerful jaws filled with triangular, serrated teeth, designed for crushing and tearing. Bull sharks are responsible for more attacks on humans than any species except great white sharks, largely due to their aggressive temperament and tendency to hunt in shallow, murky waters where people swim and fish. They are opportunistic feeders, investigating any disturbance that might signal potential prey. Beneath Stanley and Raphael's dinghy, at least one bull shark had been drawn to the area by scent and vibration. Bull sharks are typically solitary hunters, and while multiple individuals may be attracted to the same area by food sources, they do not coordinate attacks or hunt cooperatively. The shark circled slowly in the murky depths below, investigating the disturbance above. The morning progressed successfully. Stanley and Raphael hauled in crab after crab, filling their buckets. The boat rocked steadily in the choppy surf, waves slapping against the wooden hull. At approximately 7:20, as Stanley reached over the side to pull up another pot, his oar slipped from its position and fell into the water. The oar floated away quickly, pushed by waves and current. Without both oars, navigating back through the rough surf would be nearly impossible. Stanley made a split-second decision. Without warning Raphael or scanning the water around them, he pulled off his shirt and dove headfirst into the sea. The splash was substantial. Stanley's pale skin contrasted sharply against the dark water as he swam with strong strokes toward the drifting oar. His movements were erratic, his kicks creating surface disturbance, exactly the kind of signals that attract investigating sharks. He reached the oar within seconds and grabbed it, turning back toward the boat now 20 feet away. He pushed the oar ahead of him, kicking his legs in a flutter motion near the surface. Raphael stood in the boat, reaching out to help his friend aboard. When Stanley was approximately 8 feet from the dinghy, a large bull shark struck from below. The shark had been tracking his movements, rising through the water column. Its jaws opened wide, revealing rows of serrated teeth. The mouth clamped onto Stanley's lower body with devastating force, causing severe deep tissue and joint damage. Stanley released a single, piercing scream. The shark released him almost immediately, but the damage was already fatal. Massive blood loss and trauma sent him beneath the surface within seconds. The violent strike caused immediate turbulence at the surface. Blood began spreading rapidly through the water. Stanley was pulled beneath the surface in seconds, disappearing into the murky depths. The water churned briefly before returning to its choppy state. Only the abandoned oar floated nearby as evidence of the horror that had just occurred. Raphael stared at the empty water, unable to process what he had witnessed. He called out Stanley's name repeatedly, scanning desperately for any sign of his friend. Shock and terror gripped him. After moments of stunned searching, fear overtook him, forcing the realization that staying meant risking his own life. Alone in a small dinghy with a single oar, in waters where a massive predator had just attacked, Raphael made the agonizing decision to paddle back to shore. The journey took over an hour, fighting against the current and waves. He immediately contacted authorities upon reaching land, and an extensive search operation was launched. Boats scoured the area throughout the day and into the following days. 3 days later, on December 22nd, professional fisherman Desmond Burks was working his nets approximately 2 miles from the attack site when he spotted something floating in the water. Upon closer inspection, he discovered Stanley's body. Burks pulled the remains aboard and immediately radioed authorities. The body showed evidence of catastrophic trauma. The left arm was completely severed. Deep lacerations covered the torso and legs. Large sections of the body remained intact due to protective clothing and limited tidal drift in the bay's calmer waters. The medical examiner's report noted extensive shark-inflicted damage. Based on the varying sizes and patterns of bite marks on the recovered body, the examiner concluded that while one large bull shark was responsible for the fatal attack, at least 2 additional sharks had scavenged the body post-mortem. This is consistent with typical shark behavior. They are attracted to blood and distress signals, but they do not hunt cooperatively. The cause of death was determined to be massive trauma and blood loss from the initial attack, with the victim likely losing consciousness within seconds. The local newspaper reported the tragedy, describing how a father of 5 had been killed by sharks while crabbing offshore. Stanley's death sent shockwaves through the Brisbane fishing community. His wife and 5 children were left without a husband and father just days before Christmas. The incident prompted warnings about swimming and fishing in Moreton Bay during early morning hours when shark activity peaks. While Stanley Mullins met his fate in the murky waters of Australia, another tragedy would unfold decades later on the opposite side of the Pacific Ocean. In the coastal waters of California, a biology teacher named Ellis Ford would make a fatal decision while kayak fishing near a seal colony, unaware that a massive predator was hunting in the shadows below. It was September 14, 2017. In the early morning hours at Morro Bay, California, a picturesque fishing village on the central coast. The town is dominated by Morro Rock, a massive 576-foot volcanic plug rising from the Pacific Ocean. The bay's location within California's Red Triangle places it in one of the world's most concentrated great white shark habitats. September through November represents peak season for these sharks, which patrol the area during dawn and dusk hunting periods. Ellis Ford, a 38-year-old high school biology teacher from San Luis Obispo, had been planning this kayak fishing trip for 3 months. An avid kayak fisherman with 5 years of experience, Ellis was physically fit and confident. His competitive personality often pushed him to catch larger fish than his peers, and he documented his catches for his YouTube channel. Ellis had researched Morro Bay extensively, identifying it as a prime location for catching large halibut and white sea bass near Morro Rock, where fish congregate around underwater structure. Accompanying Ellis was his girlfriend Jennifer, a 36-year-old marine biologist who worked for a state wildlife agency studying sea otters. Jennifer was an experienced kayaker, but far more cautious than Ellis. She had warned him multiple times about fishing near seal colonies during the fall months when great white shark activity peaks. The area near Morro Rock supported a large harbor seal colony of over 200 individuals, which served as a magnet for hunting sharks. Recent reports from local fishermen had documented multiple great white sightings within the previous week. The water temperature was 62 degrees Fahrenheit, optimal for great white activity. They launched their kayaks around 6 in the morning from a local marina. Ellis paddled his 14-foot fishing kayak loaded with rods, tackle, and a GoPro camera mounted on his chest. Jennifer followed in her 12-foot kayak with binoculars and research equipment. Ellis arrived at his chosen fishing spot shortly after launch, positioning himself 300 yards southwest of Morro Rock in water 45 feet deep. Jennifer stayed 400 yards closer to shore, maintaining a safer distance from the seal colony. Great white sharks are apex predators perfectly adapted for hunting. They can detect extremely faint chemical traces and low-frequency vibrations from injured prey. Their electrical sensors detect faint muscle contractions and bioelectric signals produced by nearby prey. Juvenile great whites, like those frequenting Morro Bay, typically measure 8 to 14 feet in length. Their mouths contain rows of triangular serrated teeth designed to tear through flesh and bone. They are ambush predators, often attacking from below at high burst speeds exceeding 15 miles per hour. During fall months, these sharks actively patrol coastal waters hunting seals, their primary prey source. Ellis began fishing shortly after arriving, using live mackerel as bait. Unknown to him, a 14-foot subadult great white shark had been patrolling the area since before dawn, making slow passes between the seal colony and deeper water. The shark was hunting, its senses attuned to any disturbance that might signal prey. Around 7:15, Ellis hooked a large white sea bass. The fish fought hard for over 10 minutes. The fish's struggles created low-frequency vibrations that traveled through the water, detectable by sharks from over a quarter-mile away. Ellis brought the exhausted fish to the surface alongside his kayak. The fish thrashed at the surface, splashing water. Ellis reached down and grabbed the fish's gill plate, attempting to lift it into his kayak. Blood from the fish's gills dripped into the water. A great white shark, patrolling deeper water some distance away, detected the vibrations and scent of blood. The shark altered course and began swimming directly toward Ellis's kayak, accelerating rapidly toward the disturbance. Ellis finally managed to drag the white sea bass across his kayak's gunnel. The fish lay across his lap, still bleeding. He was focused entirely on securing his catch, unaware of the predator rising from below. Around 7:30, the great white shark struck Ellis's kayak from below and behind, opened wide as it breached the surface. The shark's jaws clamped down on the rear section of the kayak, its teeth puncturing the plastic hull. Ellis's left leg and lower hip, which were angled toward the rear of the kayak, with the shark's teeth causing deep lacerations to his thigh and severe damage to major blood vessels in his leg. The kayak's hull was crushed, and Ellis sustained catastrophic injuries to his lower extremities. The force of the strike lifted the rear of the kayak completely out of the water. The shark's weight capsized the kayak completely. Ellis was thrown into the water, still attached to the kayak by his ankle leash. He surfaced immediately, gasping and disoriented. Blood poured from catastrophic wounds on his lower body. The shark had descended below the surface after releasing him. Jennifer heard Ellis's scream and saw his capsized kayak 400 yards away. She began paddling toward him as fast as she could. As she approached, she could see blood spreading in the water. She dialed emergency services, reporting a shark attack near Morrow Rock. Ellis was holding onto his capsized kayak, struggling to stay conscious. His legs dangled below the surface. Jennifer reached Ellis within minutes. She found him barely conscious, holding onto his capsized kayak in a spreading pool of blood. A commercial fishing boat responded to her distress calls and pulled Ellis aboard. Despite immediate first aid from a crew member with EMT training, Ellis lost consciousness en route to harbor and never regained a pulse. The boat reached the harbor approximately 25 minutes after the attack, where paramedics were waiting. Ellis was pronounced dead upon arrival at the medical center. The medical examiner documented catastrophic vascular injuries to his leg and hip from the shark attack. The cause of death was exsanguination from severe blood vessel damage sustained during the initial bite. State wildlife investigators examined Ellis's kayak, which showed multiple puncture marks consistent with a large shark bite. Based on bite measurements, the shark was estimated to be 13 to 15 feet in length. Local beaches were closed for 72 hours following the incident. The attack served as a stark reminder of the risks associated with kayak fishing near seal colonies during peak shark season. Ellis's death marked one of the few fatal shark attacks recorded along California's central coast in decades, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit fishing community. His students at San Luis Obispo High School held a memorial service, remembering him as a passionate educator who brought marine biology to life in his classroom. The GoPro camera mounted on Ellis's chest captured portions of the attack, providing researchers with unprecedented footage of great white predatory behavior. The footage would later be used by marine biologists to better understand shark attack patterns and improve safety protocols for ocean recreation. Jennifer struggled with survivor's guilt for months afterward, eventually leaving her research position to become an advocate for shark attack prevention and ocean safety education. While Ellis Ford met his end in the cold waters of California, thousands of miles away, another deadly encounter was waiting to unfold in warm, murky coastal waters known for frequent shark activity. Kira West would enter the water driven by heroism rather than recreation. It was July 22, 2018, on a sweltering Sunday afternoon at New Smyrna Beach, Florida. The beach holds the dubious distinction of being the shark bite capital of the world, recording more shark incidents annually than any other region on Earth. The vast majority involve small blacktip and spinner sharks, but the area also attracts larger and more dangerous species, including bull sharks. The temperature was 92 degrees with high humidity. A tropical storm 200 miles offshore had generated strong rip currents. Red warning flags were posted, but the beach remained open. The water was murky brown-green with visibility estimated at less than 5 feet. Kira West, a 33-year-old emergency room nurse, had driven to the beach for a day trip on her day off. A strong swimmer and former high school swim team captain, Kira had completed multiple open water rescue and CPR certifications. She was calm under pressure and trained in water rescue techniques. Engaged to be married in 2 months, she was known for her selfless nature and instinct to help others. Accompanying her was David Grant, her 35-year-old fiancé, who was uncomfortable in ocean conditions. David had expressed concerns about shark activity, but Kira wanted to swim before their wedding preparations intensified. They arrived around 2 in the afternoon. The beach was crowded with approximately 200 people in the water. Kira entered the water around 2:30 and swam parallel to shore, staying in waist-to-chest deep water approximately 40 yards from the beach. Also at the beach that afternoon was the Patterson family from Ohio. Their 11-year-old son Tommy was an inexperienced ocean swimmer accustomed only to pools and lakes. He wore inflatable arm floaties. While his parents were setting up beach chairs, Tommy wandered away and entered the water alone. Bull sharks are considered one of the most dangerous shark species due to their aggressive nature, powerful jaws, and ability to thrive in both saltwater and freshwater environments. They are responsible for more attacks on humans than any other species, except great white sharks. Reaching lengths of 7 to 11 feet, bull sharks are stocky animals with blunt snouts, housing powerful jaws filled with triangular teeth designed for crushing and tearing. They are opportunistic feeders, known for investigating any unusual activity. July is peak season when shark activity is elevated due to warm water temperatures of 84 degrees. Unknown to anyone, a 9-foot bull shark had been hunting in the area for the past hour, cruising parallel to shore at a depth of 10 to 12 feet, feeding on stingrays and small fish. Around 3:40, Tommy entered the water and waded out to knee-deep water. A wave knocked him off balance, and he stumbled into deeper water. Within seconds, a strong rip current began pulling him away from shore. Tommy panicked and began thrashing his arms and screaming for help. His floaties kept him at the surface, but he was being pulled rapidly away. Kira was approximately 50 yards from Tommy when she heard his screams. She immediately saw the boy struggling, now 60 yards from shore. She did not hesitate. Without alerting the lifeguard or David, she dove forward and began swimming toward Tommy with powerful strokes. The lifeguard's attention was divided among multiple swimmers in distress along the crowded shoreline, involving a swimmer with a jellyfish sting further down the beach. The crowd noise and crashing waves masked Tommy's initial cries. Kira reached Tommy within minutes. The boy was in full panic, his arms flailing wildly and legs kicking frantically. Kira grabbed him from behind, wrapping her left arm across his chest in a standard rescue hold. Tommy continued to thrash. Kira began swimming perpendicular to the rip current, the proper technique to escape its pull. She used a side stroke with her right arm while holding Tommy with her left. Tommy's continued thrashing created erratic vibrations and splashing at the surface. They were now 70 yards from shore in water approximately 15 feet deep. The bull shark, cruising at 12 feet depth about 40 yards away, detected the irregular vibrations. The shark altered course and began swimming toward the disturbance, rising to 8 feet depth. The shark accelerated rapidly. David had spotted them from the beach and was running toward the lifeguard tower, shouting and waving his arms. The lifeguard finally noticed the emergency, grabbed his rescue buoy, and began running toward the water. Minutes later, when Kira and Tommy were approximately 55 yards from shore, the bull shark attacked. The shark approached from behind and below, rising rapidly. Its jaws opened wide, revealing rows of triangular teeth. The shark struck Kira's lower body in one devastating bite, its jaws clamping onto her right leg and hip area. The teeth penetrated deep into muscle tissue, causing severe deep tissue damage and massive trauma to major blood vessels in her upper leg and pelvis. The force pulled Kira underwater, but she maintained her grip on Tommy. Underwater, Kira instinctively struck the shark's snout and eye area. The shark released its grip after several seconds. Kira surfaced, gasping, still holding Tommy. Blood poured from the catastrophic wound on her right leg and hip. The pain was overwhelming, but her training and adrenaline kept her focused. She began swimming again toward shore with her right arm, kicking weakly with her left leg. Her right leg was nearly useless. As Kira struggled toward shore, the shark made brief secondary contact, bumping her torso and causing additional shallow lacerations before disengaging. The impact caused Kira to lose her grip on Tommy, who floated away on his inflatable floaties. Blood loss was accelerating rapidly. Kira's strength faded as shock overwhelmed her system. She struggled to stay at the surface, her movements becoming weaker. The lifeguard reached Tommy within minutes. Tommy was screaming and pointing at the water where Kira was struggling. The lifeguard grabbed Tommy and placed him on the rescue buoy, then began swimming him back to shore. He radioed for help. 2 other lifeguards entered the water with rescue boards. Tommy was brought to shore shortly after, physically uninjured, but traumatized. Kira's body, kept buoyant by the salt water and her remaining air in her lungs, surfaced shortly afterward, approximately 45 yards from shore, floating face down. The 2 lifeguards reached her within 30 seconds and pulled her onto one of the boards. They paddled rapidly to shore. Paramedics immediately began emergency treatment. Kira was unconscious and not breathing. She had no pulse. Her right leg and hip area had a massive bite wound with severe deep tissue damage, crushed muscle, and major vascular injury. Her torso showed additional shallow lacerations from the secondary contact. Blood loss was catastrophic. Paramedics worked frantically to stabilize her, but her injuries were too severe. An emergency helicopter was initially requested, but canceled after assessment, revealed she was in traumatic cardiac arrest with massive blood loss. Kira was transported by ground ambulance to a nearby medical center. Kira was pronounced dead in the emergency room where she had worked as a nurse for 7 years. The medical examiner documented massive trauma from a shark attack. The primary bite caused catastrophic damage to her right leg and hip, including major blood vessel rupture. The secondary contact caused additional trauma to her torso. The cause of death was exsanguination and hemorrhagic shock from the severe injuries sustained. Bite measurements indicated a bull shark between 8 and 10 feet in length. Tommy Patterson survived without physical injury. The beach was closed for 48 hours. Kira was posthumously recognized for her heroic actions in saving the young boy's life at the cost of her own. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.